Ladies and gentlemen, if you're thinking of picking up an RTX 40 graphics card, or even actually a lower-end AMD GPU, you may be best to wait, because a reliable leaker seems to be confirming my report from around a week back that RTX 40 will be indeed receiving a refresh in the next couple of months, and in this video I want to talk about that refresh and some updates from Team Green, plus, as I have already said, RDNA 3 is also seemingly going to be getting a refresh of its own, and the lower end as well as mobile seems to be getting some, well, let's just say interesting updates. We're going to get into that plus more after this quick message from the video's sponsor. This Halloween is a perfect chance to save even more money off of your Windows 10 or 11 keys at whokeys.com, today's video sponsor. Not only are Whokeys offering huge discounts off of a range of CD keys, including of course Windows, but you can get an extra 25% off using the code RGT. You can find Windows 10, 11, as well as various Microsoft Office packages, or if you're a budding developer, even Visual Studios. And of course, it goes without saying, there's a large library of games, all at reduced prices. You can use our code RGT to get a huge discount on this entire range of software. I have personally tested the purchase experience using my own personal account, and I've also had various friends try it out as well, and the whole process has been very simple. Just navigate to the product you want to buy, click buy now, and you'll be led straight to the basket where you can add a discount code, again RGT, for a further 25% off of the hugely reduced Halloween sale price, and then of course it will be sent straight to you. Thanks again to whokeys.com for sponsoring today's video. So let's start things out with a quick refresh, made it funny, of the info that I put out around a week ago. In my exclusive video, I stated that Nvidia were essentially planning a refresh of a number of different cards, including the 4070 and 4080. But to also give credit to Mega-sized GPU, he also stated that the 4080 is going to be getting a kind of refresh with some significantly improved specifications. Now, from what I was told at that point, the release date for these refresh cards is not confirmed, but basically it's probably going to be seeing an unveiling around CES next year. Now, it's possible that it could be a slightly later conference, but around CES seemed to be probable. But obviously, Nvidia as well as Jensen are pretty famous for just reading the room, and if they feel that a plan needs to change because they think it's for the best, then of course they will do so. Now on screen you can see the slide that I released in that video. I'm not going to read out the specifications for the card again, because, well, you can see them on screen, but do note that they are not final specs. There could be a number of changes before launch. We've seen this, of course, in the past with RTX 40 and RTX 30, with Nvidia basically jostling things around, but there will be a number of cards which are going to be seeing a refresh, such as the 4070, but also the launch of the 4090 Ti. Now, I just want to tackle that card specifically for a moment, because I kind of wasn't 100% clear in that video, and I received a few questions on it, so my bad on that. I just want to really make clear that the 4090 Ti isn't so much a refresh as it is kind of like a new Halo SKU. Basically, Titan isn't going to see a release, at least from what I understand. Who knows? I mean, Nvidia could change their mind, but at this point it just doesn't seem to be seeing the light of day. So basically speaking, the 4090 probably won't see much of a change in pricing, but this 4090 Ti will basically be more expensive and a premium product. However, the other cards, the vanilla versions, they may see a reduction in pricing, or it may be their equivalent in Ti seems, or rather the refresh seems a reduction in pricing. Again, there's some mixed information here, but Nvidia do want to do some type of invigoration to its lineup. And if we fast forward to what's popped up from another source on Twitter, Hong Sing 2020, I really hope I've pronounced that correctly. I really do apologize if I've butchered the name. Now, they basically state very similar information to myself, that the release date isn't decided yet. Again, I'm hearing it's going to be early next year, but who knows. And rather amusingly, one of the SKUs is going to be the 4070 Ti Super. Now, this is not actually dissimilar to the naming scheme I heard, that Nvidia were really uncertain on some of the names because obviously Ti was already used. So some of the cards may be called Ti, some of them may be called Super, or who knows. That's what I basically said in the previous video. My advice to you guys is pretty simple. If you want to pick up a 4090 and that's about as much as you want to spend on a card, and honestly I don't blame you, then obviously the 4090 Ti probably will be a little more expensive, so the 4090 is the obvious option. But if you are considering, let's say, a 4080 or something like that, maybe you're better to wait. Now, if you're wondering, well, what about Blackwell? Well, I have mentioned this in a few videos, but essentially speaking, Blackwell is likely to launch late 2025. I've heard a time frame between Q2 and Q3, which brings it closer in alignment to AMD's high-end RDNA 5 parts. As you all know, RDNA 5 launches, basically late 2025, but it's going to be the high-end SKUs, and RDNA 4 is going to be confined to, well, basically low to mid-range performance. We've spoken about that a crap ton on the channel, so I'm not going to spend too long belaboring the point here. But what I will say is that if you do pick up one of these refresh products, assuming they actually get launched, and let's say that you pick one up in, let's just hypothetically say March next year, so 2024, realistically you're probably going to have at least 5 to 6 quarters for them to be current, depending on the release schedule, of course, for Blackwell. But what about AMD? Well, recently there was some news that the company are launching RDNA 2 GPUs, new ones. The 6750 GRE, or I'm going to call it GRE for this video, as in causing grief for consumers with confusion, because there's a 10 and a 12 gigabyte variant. Now, aside the memory configuration being 10 and 12 gigabytes, this of course brings corresponding changes to both bus width and bandwidth, but also ramifications to the Infinity Cache, as you can see in this official slide. But not only that, but there's a difference in the number of compute units and RT units, plus also some additional clock frequency and higher power consumption correspondingly. Now, one person could ask, Paul, why have AMD called both of these cards 6750 Grees, with the RAM quantity being the only discernible thing that the customer has access to in the name to let you know that they are different SKUs? Well, I would respond to that something along the lines of, now that is an excellent question. Fucked if I know. I genuinely have no idea what they were thinking with that. But, I mean, at least it's not Intel's new CPU naming convention, I suppose. Anywho, I'm being told though that there's a new RDNA 3 card which is being considered. Now, as you can see on screen, it's either the 7600 XT or the 7600 GRE. The name is unconfirmed at this point. It's basically N32 shaved down to 40 compute units with either 8 or 16 gigabytes of memory. Now, I'm uncertain at this stage whether that's two different options, so basically you as a consumer can choose between 8 or a 16 gigabyte card, or whether AMD themselves have not decided which configuration. Either way, it's cursed with 128-bit GDDR6 and 185 watt TBP. Now, this is for the desktop, but it's worth noting that this card may not get launched because basically the RDNA 2 Griefest that we just spoke about is AMD wanted to get rid of cheap RDNA 2 chips, or rather an oversupply, an abundance of them. One could make a very good argument that we could see this particular card, the RDNA 3 N32 card, launched later on. I don't think they're going to be in any rush for this, honestly, but who knows. Now, I'm also hearing that AMD will be refreshing its RDNA 3 mobile lineup. Again, this is not confirmed. I've only had this from a single source so far. Normally, I like to try and confirm stuff by a couple of people, but unfortunately, I just haven't had time for this specific thing. And I'm just going to add it in here because we're talking so much about refreshes, so consider this as a pinch of salt. Actually, make it a truckload of salt. But basically, this is going to be the supposed debut of N31 for the mobile products. 76 compute units, 16 gigs of RAM on, of course, a 256-bit bus, and 160 to 200 watt TGP. This obviously is kind of competition for RTX 4090s or whatever for mobile. And then, as you can see on screen, I'm not going to read out all the SKUs because, well, so many of them are kind of interchangeable really, but obviously they go down in specification, with the lowest end being 7800S. Again, the names could change, but it's based on N32 with 54 compute units, 12 gigs of memory, and up to 125 watt TGP. Now it's going to be absolutely fascinating to see what the hell happens in the GPU market, because as I mentioned, 500 billion times at this point, RDNA 4 basically will only be low-end to mid-range products. We have a plethora of high-end APUs, of course, from Intel and AMD, which eventually will trickle out, such as Strix Point and, of course, the Halo SKU Sarlacc. But we also have Intel's Battle Mage, which I leaked the release schedule for that in the roadmap form. So it's going to be very interesting to see exactly what happens over the next couple of years. I will be absolutely fascinated, to be honest with you guys, to see what Nvidia actually does with RTX 50. The performance targets that have kind of been floating around are like 70-ish% performance, 70% performance increase. But I honestly don't know. My theory with RDNA 5 is that AMD will release some very high-end products, but I think Nvidia will probably do some type of staggered launch. Again, this is not a leak, this is just guesstimate, and they will basically release a higher-end RTX 50 GPU when AMD have kind of blown its load. But I don't know that, I'm just guessing. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens with AMD and Intel and, well, Nvidia, of course. With that said, guys, it's just been a quicker video today because I have been working on a couple of other things. There'll be some very cool stuff on the channel over the next couple of days. But I did want to give you guys this update because this did pop up from Hong Sing. Again, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. And so I did want to just mention it in this video and also give you the RDNA updates as well. With that said, have an amazing day. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.